Hey everyone, Sparrow here. A bit of a different video today because I messed up this week, like pretty badly. I was having such a hard time finding inspiration for this habitat and it suddenly hit me on like Thursday, so pretty short timeline for building a whole habitat, editing a video, and getting it out on schedule. But I was so excited about this more modern horse stable inspired idea, and the entire building in front of you was complete when I realized that my recording software was recording nothing but a black screen. So that was fun. But we're still here, the reindeer still have a home in True North Sanctuary, and before we get into the speed build, we're going to do a stop motion build with a short tutorial on the things I was most proud of. Let's go. I started the building with the floor, concrete on the inside, and stained wood for this patio where guests will be able to look into the barn. Then the walls, that big patio window for guest viewing, sliding doors because I modeled this off of an old horse stable, roof support beams and lights, and finally the roof. All of this came together in about 2 hours, so a relatively quick build as far as my building times go. First, I wanted to quickly go over the sliding doors. I made them out of the painted girders, stained wood wall pieces, the thin painted metal rod, and the wagon wheels as the sliding mechanism. Now, they are quite thick because of the width of the girders, but if we head back to the barn, I did make sure they weren't colliding with anything as they slid. Since it's in a separate group from the building, it's super easy to go into the group, deselect the two rail pieces, and slide the door open and closed. Next is something I'm really excited about. I recently picked up this tip from Anders. He has so many great little tips like this, so make sure to check out his channel. Basically, for the roof, I wanted the metal clad texture on the exterior, so I created my roof as I normally would, used the 2-meter incline and the 1-meter gable. For some reason, those two fit together angle-wise. Added some eaves on the ends and also extended the roof a little bit extra so that I could then put those pieces in a separate group and slide them back in. So there's a slight overhang on the far side, seeing as we don't have angled eave pieces. But the architecture beams in the corners were clipping through, and I had to raise the entire roof a little bit, which resulted in a slight gap between the roof and the walls. Also, the interior of the roof wasn't particularly how I wanted it. My inspiration had these beautiful wood support beams following the angle of the roof. So this is where the Anders tip comes in. I found a roof type that had built-in supports, so in this case the Arctic wood roof, which has these gorgeous wooden beams underneath. And I aligned the first piece to my metal-clad roof, made sure to remove it from the group, and built the exact same roof in this new group using the Arctic wood. Everything down to the eaves so the beams extend all the way to the edges. Then once that was done, that group slid down to be just underneath the metal-clad roof. And this way, you can't see the Arctic wood shingles, but you can see the wooden support beams underneath, and I think it looks fantastic. If you've used this trick before, do let me know in the comments because my mind was blown. And just like that, we are into the speed build portion of today's video, planting up the habitat with a few different plants this time. I haven't been using caribou moss too much in the other habitats because I find the color is super different from the more yellow tone of the grass terrain paint, and I don't love how it looks together. But how can you have a reindeer enclosure without caribou moss? This is one of the coolest plants out there in my opinion, and even though it's called moss, it's actually a type of lichen and part of the fungus family. As the name suggests, it's an important part of reindeer diets, making up 60 to 70% of what they eat. It's also an impressive insulator both against the cold and sound. So if you have reindeer moss decorations, it is also commonly used in things like crafting, then it could change the acoustics in your room. While caribou moss is an extremely cold-hardy plant and has no problem growing in the alpine tundra, it also is a slow-growing plant, growing only 3 to 10 millimeters or 1/8 to 3/8 of an inch per year. So if you're an animal lover, and I'm assuming you are if you're here, you can probably see how dangerous it would be for the reindeer if we overharvest or somehow damage their main food source. But anyway, that's why I decided to include this plant in this particular enclosure, and we'll likely be seeing more of it in the last parts of the zoo. I did also add plenty of leaf litter beneath the aspens in this enclosure. We'll need to add some tree covers to protect them so the reindeer don't completely strip the bark off of the trees. I did want the enclosure to have a more paddock feel, continuing with that horse inspiration all around. These fences I stole from the moose enclosure, but felt they weren't secure enough on this raised path, so added some mesh panels to ensure no small children or teenagers with bright ideas slip underneath. Then, of course, adding enrichment for the reindeer and making sure to recolor so it blends in nicely with the environment and isn't an eyesore. While our reindeer are currently visible through the viewing window, I wanted to decorate the outside of the barn a little more just in case the animals are out and about. So we have an educational sign and clouds all around the sign because our reindeer are named after types of clouds. Thanks to Death the Kid 4821 for that awesome suggestion. Our male is Cyrus and our two females are Alto and Stratus. Here is another new trick I picked up from Pacha, I believe, adding lighting on the outside and then sliding it into place. With position snap on, so each light snapped to the center of the roof panel, I placed 5 lights and then with angle snap on rotated them 180 degrees so they were facing into the building. Then I slid that group under to line it up with the wood support beams on the inside. The finishing touch for today is making sure the area behind the habitat is just as treed as the actual habitat itself. The reindeer enclosure ended up being quite shallow, which is great for guest viewing opportunities, but by adding trees behind the fence, it makes it seem a lot deeper and like it extends into the forest beyond. Leaf was completely correct in saying that taking care of the exterior adds just as much to your build as what's in it. Checked out some sightlines to fill in any gaps, and then this enclosure is finished. Okay, so here we are on the last tour of the mountain hike area. On the right is our Doll Sheep barn, and then up this path we can go up to the mountainside aviary, but we're going to take the left path past the reindeer enclosure. This big screen here is eventually going to be a zoo map. Haven't really started on that yet, maybe soon, seeing as we only have one thing left in the zoo. Well, not one thing, but one part of the zoo left. And then here we already get a great look at our reindeer. They really like this corner of the habitat for some reason. I'm not sure why, maybe because it's the scratching tree over here, but they like to hang out over here, which is great because it's something the guests see first as they round that corner. And we obviously want them to see our animals as we're going. I'm very happy with the way this habitat turned out, especially knowing the fact that I had like zero inspiration for it for most of the week. It is very shallow. There's actually only 5 trees within the habitat itself. Most of the trees you're seeing are behind the habitat, which is kind of cool, and it's a fun way to make an illusion of a more treed habitat without actually taking up too much traversable area. We do also have our educational signage, of course. So the reindeer are here. And then as we keep walking, we do get a good view of their eating and drinking areas, but we also get a view into the reindeer barn. I thought this was a cool way of having guests get up a little more close and personal, especially, you know, if the reindeer is right in front of the window. That would be a sight to see for sure. I was thinking of making a sign up here above the window, but I kind of like the way the beams look, so I might just leave it. And we do still have a lot of things going on with the sculpture and the lighting and the clouds and the educational signage. And the planters, of course, they have quite a few flowers in them. The one that I recently learned more about is Labrador tea, so the big white one in the back. And apparently Labrador tea grows in alpine environments or subalpine, and it is very, very nice. Like, it has a very nice smell. I had the pleasure of smelling it for the first time at a museum recently, and it's kind of like piney, cedary with like a little bit more spice to it. It smells really good. It's very aromatic. Yeah, so I thought I would include that because while it's not necessarily important to reindeer, it is important to the Inuit who hunt caribou and reindeer. I guess caribou and reindeer is the same thing, it's just a different name. But yeah, so the reindeer are important to them, but Labrador tea is as well for medicinal purposes and stuff like that. Okay, we don't have any reindeer through the window, so we're gonna round the corner, go in through the staff door, which also I kind of hid it within this delivery door because I wasn't sure how the reindeer were actually going to make it into their habitat. So still need to work on that a little bit, but it is almost there. And then as we walk in here, very heavily inspired by horse barns for sure, with like the the windows, and then the sliding doors. And you can see out into the rest of the zoo from here as well. Some heaters on the walls for when it gets cold out. Not that the reindeer really need it. Reindeer have incredible insulation. They have 2 layers of hair, and their hair is actually hollow, so not only does air get trapped between hairs, it also gets trapped within the hairs, and that keeps them super nice and toasty warm in their alpine climates. Apparently, reindeer can lay on the ground, and because of how well insulated they are, they won't melt the snow underneath them, that's just crazy to me. We have one laying over here right now. I'm kind of wondering if these guys are stuck. Maybe that's why they're still here. Although I did move them earlier, and they just gravitated back towards this section for some reason. Such majestic animals. And then as we reach the back of the habitat here, this is just the steel, not the steel mesh, the chain link fence from the barriers tab, and then I just hid the posts within these logs to give it a more natural look. But yeah, we can look out kind of into the back portion of the zoo, which is not yet filled, but up there is the path up to the mountain aviary. We can see the dull sheep barn from here. And then, of course, we can also see across to the cougar, which we did last week. And then a nice view of the barn from here as well. Our reindeer are settling in quite nicely to their new home, but let's check out the other animals who call the mountain hike at True North Sanctuary their home. The Gemstone Pack has a new member. Wolves Jet and Jasper have a little one, and she takes after her dad. You can see him keeping a watchful eye in the back there. She is so mischievous and adorable to watch, but she needs a name. So if you have any ideas for gem or mineral related names, leave me a comment below. Huckle the grizzly bear is living his best life on the salmon run, even though he carries many battle scars. His favorite activity is definitely snoozing the day away, but I really can't blame him. Edith is settling into her enclosure and climbing all over the place. She also likes sticking to the undergrowth away from prying eyes, though she is definitely growing in confidence the longer she is here. The doll sheep enclosure now houses 4 members, the original male and female, as well as 2 new females traded in from another zoo. They have all been named after mountain peaks in North America, so say hello to Denali, Whitney, Rainier, and Bonna. Our gray owls and eagles are made of art pieces, but I've decided the owls will be named Rocky and Slate, while the eagles are Icarus and Amelia. They're likely to be with us for a very long time. So with all of these enclosures built and animals well taken care of, I announce the mountain hike portion of True North Sanctuary as complete. I'm also really happy to announce that we've hit 1,000 subscribers on the channel, and I absolutely couldn't have done it without you. Thank you so much for your continued support. You can keep your eyes peeled for a 1K subscriber special video out in the next little bit, as well as the continuation of True North Sanctuary. There's still an entire section left to build, and I can't wait to show you what I have in store. See you next time. Bye.